Welcome back, all the dear chess friends. Today I want to show you the Evans Gambit, an opening which I think every beginner and even intermediate level player should learn and play, and it can bring you many successes. And when I was a beginner player, I played it a lot at my chess club and also as online play. And really, the opponents don't know what to do against it. And if you don't know, it's just a very dangerous opening. As you can see from this nice picture of Morphy, old masters also really like to play this opening. It's because white gets the initiative from the get-go. White gets to sacrifice a pawn, get the center, and try to attack black as soon as possible before black gets to develop and go short castle. Let's just get into it. This is of course the starting position of Evans Gambit. White plays the move b4, sacrificing this pawn. Okay, just very quickly to see how do we get here. Of course, we play 1e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, so the Italian game. And now the normal moves here would be something like c3, or castles, or d3, or even knight c3. But we play the advanced gambit b4, sacrificing the pawn. Now let's see, of course, what happens if black takes it. I will show you what happens after bishop b6 later as well. But bishop takes b4, we play c3 of course, kicking the bishop. And now black can move the bishop to different squares, mainly to c5 and a5, since going bishop e7 doesn't make that much sense. It's quite passive, but let's take a look at it anyways. So bishop e7, we play d4, and this is a very common idea in the advanced gambit. We do want to get the center, even at the cost of sacrificing the pawn, but here our center is pretty strong, and also we want to open up this bishop so it has a very nice diagonal. So black takes e4, you play the move queen b3, very nice move, hitting the f7 pawn. And now, for instance, black can go wrong in many different ways. Let's say if he plays knight h6, which is a mistake, you just take on h6, g8-6, and bishop f7 check. So let's say we go bishop h5, we are threatening checkmate, and it's not easy for black to stop checkmate. Also, black lost the pawn, and his king is just terrible here. It's open to all kinds of nasty checks. Okay, so knight h6 is a mistake. The move d5, well, it kind of prevents bishop f7, but just doesn't make any sense. You just take on d5 and you are a pawn up. So here the best moves probably knight a5, bishop takes f7, king f8, and black's point is that haha, I attack your queen, I attack your bishop, but we can simply go queen a4, and after king f7, queen a5. Again, this black king is just in the center, all kinds of checks are coming, and white can simply just castle and has a much safer king and therefore a much better game. Okay. So bishop e7, not a very scary move. Now let's take a look at the main move, actually, bishop to c5. So black just says, okay, I took a pawn and I'm just going to go back to c5. So of course you'll play d4 again, hitting the bishop, a takes d4, c takes d4, and now bishop b4 check. So black keeps the check, and here we can block with the bishop, but I recommend this move knight b to d2 to block with the knight. And the reason is that we might want to keep this bishop because this bishop might go to this diagonal and put pressure on black's position. And also blocking with the knight is very nice because this knight anyway couldn't go to c3, so we just develop it via d2. Okay, so let's say black plays d6, black is also trying to develop. Again, we play queen b3. This queen b3 move is a very thematic move in the advanced gambit. I want you to remember this because it's directly hitting this pawn on f7. And now, let's say, okay, and also there is another nasty threat that we have here, is that we are kind of with the queen touching this bishop, and so we are planning to go d5, attack this knight, which is defending this bishop, and then take it. So black most probably should take on d2, and actually that is the most popular move. So bishop d2 check, bishop takes d2, queen e7, black is just trying to develop and also putting pressure on our pawn on e4, but you don't care, you just go short castle. and of course if black takes it, he immediately loses. So black plays knight f6, rook f1, and this position is just fantastic for white. You're going to put all the pieces into the center. You have a very nice center with these 2 pawns, and also you can push for e5 or d5, so white is just much better. Okay, so instead of and now let's take a look at the move bishop a5, which also a lot of people play. And the point is, of course, that black says I'm going to keep this bishop on this diagonal, and when we play d4 now, this pawn on c3 is pinned. So, but we play d4 anyway, of course. Black takes e4, and after this we go queen b3, and queen b3 is a very nice move. So you see, we are not afraid to sacrifice pawns, even pawns in the center. We just want to go for the initiative and for the attack. So queen b3, of course, has a very subtle threat of taking on f7. So black has to find some way to defend it, and again, it's not so easy. If black plays knight h6 again, you just take on h6 and take on f7. So this is a disaster for black. Now, if black is a decent player, he sees that, okay, he cannot play knight h6, so he or she plays queen e7. Now we go short castle and dc3. So now if you count the material, we are currently sacrificed 3 pawns, one with b4, then d4, and now c3. But we're going to take this one back, and we have a fantastic leading development, knight c3. And just look at all of black's pieces, they are all on the back rank. Black has no development, and already here, if black doesn't want to get into so much trouble, he should just take this knight, because otherwise, let's say if he goes knight f6, after either knight d5 or probably e5, he's just in so much trouble. Let's say knight g4, you just go bishop g5, attacking black's queen, and you can see that black's queen doesn't have a lot of squares to go to. After f6, in general, also I want to clarify something, that if ever black plays f6 in this kind of open position, because he's opening up this diagonal, his king gets too much weak, and it's just a disaster. So already it shows that something has gone wrong. So if black doesn't want to get into trouble, because you see we have a fantastic position, we have castle, all of our pieces have good squares to go to, and black's pieces clearly are lacking development, black should take on c3 with the bishop, queen c3, and go knight f6. But even here we have a very nice position after the move e5. So you see, you want to just take the initiative in this opening. You don't want to make a slow move. It's the nature of this opening that you just go forward, you develop all your pieces, and then you push it to the center, you bring your rooks to the center, and so on. So we just hit the knight on f6 here, obviously. Black still is not castle. Let's say knight e4, queen e3, again hitting the knight. And after knight c5, bishop a3, white is basically having a very big advantage, pinning this knight to the queen. Black has to find some uncomfortable way to protect it, because okay, he's just losing the piece, and probably he has only 2 ways, d6 or b6, but both of them are very weakening moves, and therefore white is just better. Okay, so now as we saw in the main lines, white just has a very easy play, very going to the attack, and very straight to the point, and black has to play very precisely in order to keep the balance, and only one inaccuracy from black means that you will get a win with white. But now let's see what happens if here after the move b4, black says, okay, no, I don't want to take this pawn, I want to just don't do anything with it, I'm just going to play bishop pieces. By the way, I would like to mention one thing, that is, of course, if black takes to the knight on b4, you just can take on e5, and e5 pawn is unprotected, but I would recommend you to play c3, knight c6, and d4. So again, we get our Evans Gambit. If you remember, we had this position via a different move order, we had it via this move order, and it's the same. So basically, it really doesn't matter for us if black wants to take with the knight on b4 or with the bishop. Okay, so now let's see what happens if black goes bishop b6. So he doesn't take the pawn, he just resists the bishop. And now I would recommend you to play a4, and trying to trap this bishop. So now we say, okay, you didn't take our pawn, but now we are threatening to go a5, and then this bishop is very short and square, really short and square. Okay, so now one thing is that b4 pawn, you might say, okay, it's still hanging, and black can take it. Well, that's true, but then again, after c3, knight c6, and d4, you have fantastic compensation. Bishop queen b3 is coming, bishop a3 is coming to stop black from going short castles. Let's say I just want to show something. We can go queen b3 or just take back here, because black is really not going castle soon, and as soon as he plays knight f6, he gets hit with e5, and his position is just crumbling. Okay, so taking on b4 is not a very intelligent idea. Black probably either should play a6 or a5 to give this bishop a square on a7. Now let's start with, let's say, a6. So for example, I would recommend here actually the move knight c3. Very straightforward move. You just want to put this knight on the center. Let's say black most popular move is b6 to try to develop some pieces here. So you go knight b5, bishop a7, castles. Let's say knight g7 and b5. And this position I think is just better for white. You have more space on the queen side, which is very important, and also you have more development because you have a knight on center, you have already castle, and black still has to take some moves to get castle, and also his knight on c6 is currently hanging. He doesn't have anywhere good to go. Let's say a b5, a b5, and he has to probably go knight b8 because knight b4 is not a very good move, because after this you cannot take with the bishop because rook takes a8, so he has to take with the pawn, and of course this pawn structure is just terrible for black. So here also white's position is just very good. Now let's see for the last variation what happens if instead of a6 black says, okay, I want to go more active and I want to go a5 and hit your pawn on b4. So of course you play b5, hit the knight, knight goes to d4. If really knight goes anywhere else, let's say goes to e7, here we can actually just take the pawn on e5. So this is really not a good idea. So black plays knight d4, and his idea is that now if you take on e5, he has some tricks, maybe with queen f6, even though this is probably playable for white, but I don't want to give you something that's complicated. Of course, now we can take on f7 with the bishop or with the knight, but then black will have a certain counterplay against the f2 pawn. So we don't want to allow that. So after knight d4, I would actually much rather just take on d4, bishop d4, play c3, bishop b6, and d4. And you see that again we build this strong center. We want to develop very quickly our pieces, go castles, queen b3, bishop a3, knight d2, and just have an attacking position again. And also you can see that we have more space on the queen side, which is really important. And black's development is not very attractive, let's say. I mean, he only has his bishop out, which is not very impressive. So let's see some example line here. Let's say if black takes, you don't want to really waste time taking back, just go short castle. If black wants to take your pawns, he will probably regret that after queen b3. Now, of course, you are again hitting the f7 pawn, so you see it's really, this team is the team of Evans Gambit. So queen e7, knight c3, and now of course the knight is jumping towards d5. Let's say if knight f6, bishop g5, and we are coming next move with knight d5 or e5 and rook e1, rook d1, and all of black's position and every white piece is going towards black's king, and black doesn't get to finish his development here, and he's just losing the game. So to sum it up, I would like to say that this opening is a really fantastic opening. Even after all of these years, still black players really struggle against it. If your opponent is not a strong grandmaster, I think this opening is really playable. And as I hope already I've shown you, in all the lines, we go for the initiative, we go for the quick development with c3, d4, queen b3, bishop a3, knight c3, and so on. And we don't really care about sacrificing a pawn or two. Also, it's a really fun opening to play. I always enjoy playing it, and I hope you also find it enjoyable. So thanks everybody for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, like this video, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.